At least 15 people dead, dozens more injured after a man in a pickup truck plowed into a New Year's crowd on New Orleans' Bourbon Street. The FBI identifying the suspect as 42-year-old Shamsuddin Jabbar, an Army veteran born in Texas. Cops say he opened fire on police after the truck stopped and was killed in a shootout. Police finding guns, multiple pipe bombs, and an ISIS flag in that truck. The FBI now investigating the mass killing as an act of terrorism as they probe potential ties to terror organizations. They also believe Jabbar may not have acted alone. Meanwhile, the FBI and Harris County Police raiding a location in Houston, Texas last night as they look for more information on the killer and potential accomplices. I want to bring in Fox News contributor and former CIA station chief serving in Moscow, Iraq, and Pakistan, Daniel Hoffman. Dan, I'm so grateful that you're with us this morning. Give us your initial assessment of what happened in New Orleans.
Well, look, there's still a lot of information that we're waiting for, and I can tell you that based on my experience serving decades at the CIA, our intelligence community, as well as state and local federal law enforcement, they're mounting a full-court press right now, not just to do the forensics on this horrific terrorist attack, but to determine the extent to which the perpetrator of the attack might have been involved with some sort of a network that assisted him with planning and with financing, whether there was an overseas connection as well. It looks as though he had a connection with ISIS, and they've enjoyed a lot of open field running in Afghanistan, especially since the Biden administration's chaotic withdrawal back in 2021, where we now lack the capability to find, fix, and finish those targets. ISIS not only has mounted external operations attacks in Russia, and of course there was the attack that was thwarted in Austria against Taylor Swift concert, but online they have a presence, and they radicalize potential followers all over the world. That's been a staple of al-Qaeda and ISIS since their inception.
And we had that attack on that German Christmas market about 2 weeks ago. Similar situation, mass casualty event, someone picking a very busy, crowded event, and this is what happened, obviously, in New Orleans, a busy crowd. I mean, you know, New Orleans after midnight on Bourbon Street is going to be packed, and obviously that suspect knew this. But, you know, you mentioned something about the financial issue here, and that's, you know, this goes back to motive of this suspect. And while they are investigating the motive, he did have a lot of financial problems. Is that someone do you think, even though he was born and bred a Texan, an Army veteran, he was in the Army for 10 years, he had a lot of financial problems, reportedly, and that's all coming to light this morning. Are those the types of people that you think are vulnerable to influence from terrorist groups like ISIS?
They certainly can be. Look, the potential here for mental health issues, we just don't know a whole lot. We've got to do a deep dive into this individual and understand what else was going on in his life. And there's a lot of work being done by the FBI right now, and also by journalists uncovering what sort of life he was leading. But I want to get back to the tactics involved here, because you're right to call out the truck used here to launch this horrific attack. Yes, they've been used in the past in Berlin, in Nice, and in Wisconsin. There's no training involved here, and al-Qaeda, through al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula online magazine called Inspire back a decade ago, encouraged their followers to use exactly that tactic at mass casualty events like this, and that's something that we have to be absolutely focused on in the future. Well,
there was a similar event here in New York City on the west side along the Hudson River. And again, it was someone that was inspired by terrorist ideology. Let's talk about the incident in Vegas, because a Tesla Cybertruck exploded also yesterday outside Trump International Hotel there, 20 seconds after it pulled up to the entrance. Now, police say the person in the vehicle was killed, at least 7 bystanders hurt. The car reportedly was full of gasoline, camp fuel containers, and large fireworks. Now, authorities say they do know who rented the vehicle, which was acquired in Colorado, but they're not publicly identifying that person yet. Both the New Orleans attacker and the suspect in the Vegas explosion used the car rental app Turo to rent the vehicles they used. Now, right now, there's no clear ties established between the two individuals. Turo says it does not believe either suspect had a criminal background that would have been identified as a threat. Dan, can you give us some color and commentary on this?
Yeah, there's just so much more information that we need. We don't even have the person's name, the attacker in Las Vegas. But one thing I would note is, generally, before an attack takes place, you'll see surveillance. The attacker will case the site and look at it and determine when the best time might be to launch the attack. And also in Vegas, there's the potential for a network there for the individual to acquire these explosives. There's just a lot of forensics that we need to be doing. But I can tell you this is the worst place to be. We want to detect threats way out, left of boom, before any harm is caused, so that we can preempt them and prevent any damage and prevent any death and destruction that we've seen to innocent civilians. And in this case, we're right now in incident response. And that's not a place you want to be, especially in New Orleans. Getting back to New Orleans, where you've got, the Sugar Bowl coming up. And Mardi Gras, and Las Vegas, obviously, a very busy city, and so we've got to be at the alert. And I always encourage folks, look, if you see something, say something. If your gut's telling you that something doesn't quite look right, tell your state and local law enforcement, and they can marry that up with whatever else they're seeing, and maybe prevent a similar attack in the future.
Okay, I want you to listen to Senator Kennedy from Louisiana. He made these comments on Fox News to Aisha Hasni, and it's getting a lot of attention. Listen to this.
Are you getting the sense that there's any threat of any other potential attacks tonight on any other major cities?
I can't answer that. I can, but I won't.
Dan, he also made similar comments at a press conference. Dan?
Yes. I think, look, the FBI has stopped a lot of ISIS attacks in the United States. They've arrested individuals connected with ISIS. And so this is the case where we need to have some more public hearings. Transparency really matters for the public so that we can know what we're up against. I don't think Senator Kennedy wanted to speculate at this point, and maybe that's why he held back on any further details. But this is a time where the American public needs to know the threats that we face so that we can be better equipped to defend ourselves.
Dan Hoffman, thank you so much for being here this morning. Really appreciate your time.